And we're live. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Sorry, just give me a second here. I'm just trying to start a timer because I need to be out of here in 15 minutes. Okay. Welcome in, ladies. Welcome in. Who is joining me live today? Okay, so you're probably wondering why you seen me earlier than I said I would show up. It's because I actually had a conflict today and I forgot about it. So I thought instead of not showing up at all, I might as well come in earlier, do the training that I said I was going to do today, and then you guys can watch it later. Okay? So welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. So today's topic is, so let me just kind of give you guys quick context here. So in the last 2 weeks, I've talked about how to have boundaries, that boundaries are way more than just saying no, right? Last week, we talked about how do you set boundaries in very difficult situations. The previous week, we talked about the way that you set boundaries in general. This week, we're going to talk about 3 scenarios where women tend to lack the courage to set boundaries. And these 3 scenarios that I'm going to give you, you can find them in your professional life or in your personal life, okay? I know many of you have or are in this scenario, so I want to give you specific actions to take so that you can start to enforce boundaries. Without further ado, let's get started. So if this is the first time that you're seeing me, you are welcome. Welcome in, Leah. Welcome in. My name is Abby, and I am a life and leadership coach, and I work with organizations to train their leaders to be able to have wellness and fulfillment and resilience in their lives. And I also work with women leaders and provide coaching for them. Today's topic is something that both men and women struggle with. Most people do struggle with, again, because it goes against human nature. So the 3 scenarios that I commonly see, and I experience this too, that women tend to struggle to enforce boundaries. Number 1, when you're starting a new job, or you're starting a new business, or you're starting a new relationship. So whenever you're starting something new, you're in this mode of, I need to prove myself, especially when you're starting a new job or a new business. You want to prove yourself. You want to show, ladies, just give me a second here. Give me a second here. I'll be right back. When you are starting a new business or a new job or a new relationship, there's this, I have to prove myself. I have to show people what I'm capable of. And automatically your mind goes into prove yourself, show them what you're made of, show them that they hired you for a reason. If you're starting a business, prove yourself to your clients, let them see your value. So essentially you're trying to prove your value. When you're trying to prove your value, you're not in the mindset to set boundaries, because one of the biggest fear that you're going to have is that people are going to reject you. People are going to look down on you. People are going to say that, oh, she's not capable. So even if you hear a video of mine that tells you to set boundaries, you're not going to be able to receive it because you're in this mode of proving yourself, which has been triggered by starting a new job, a new business, or even starting a new relationship. Which in the third case, you should never be proving yourself if you're in a relationship, but I'm not a relationship coach, so let's just leave that. So what do? Because it's natural to want to show your skills and your value when you're starting something new, but you can't show your value and skill set without actually needing to prove yourself. 2 different mindsets. Okay, so one of the very first things that has helped me, and I teach other women, is from day 1, set the tone. From day 1, set the tone. How do you set the tone? Why are you here? What are the specific outcomes that you are expected to create? Have a baseline that you are expected to meet, maybe with your manager or whoever hired you, or if it's a business, a baseline, whether it's income or revenue or processes, whatever it is that you're looking to put out there, set the tone. And as you're setting that tone, let it be clear to your subconscious that this is what I'm working towards, and I'm choosing not to go beyond it, because if I go beyond it, I will lose myself. Okay? So from day one, you were setting the tone. Okay? And this again, it's a lot easier said than done. That's why I said from day one. It might feel scary the first day, much better. It might feel scary the first day, but if you continue to do it for the next 7 to 14 days, your brain is going to start to wire that into your behavior, and then it's going to be easier to set boundaries. All right? The second thing is remember your why. Why did you get this job? Why did you start this business? Why did you get into that relationship? What is the why? Because oftentimes when your why is clear, then when you are working towards your why, you're not letting yourself be distracted by wanting to get people's approval, right? So for example, if you're starting a new business, you're starting that business because you want to help people. So you're focused on that. And then you're setting the tone that, yes, I want to help people, but this is what I'm prepared to do within this time frame. Anything beyond this is going to cause me to lose myself. And so when you have that set baseline and you remember what your why is, it's a lot easier to set boundaries from day one. Okay? And if you're in the corporate world, you're working with someone to do this. You're working with your manager to do this. And so I taught you guys last week, when you're talking to people in the corporate world, like your manager, your supervisors, and they're asking you to do something, you don't say no. Like, that's not how you do it, right? You ask more questions. So let's say when you start a new job and you're talking with your manager and they're setting your 60-day or 90-day expectations, they'll ask you, how does this feel? Be honest and say, this feels very good to me. This looks like something that I can achieve. Remember, you know your why. You've already set the baseline before having these discussions. And so you just compare that, and if it feels like it's overextending, be honest and ask more questions. Okay, how am I supposed to do this? Ask more questions. Come from a curiosity perspective, and that way is a lot easier to be able to set those boundaries as you're starting that new job or you're starting that new business. Okay? Number 2, ladies, I do have to drop. I have like 15 minutes. So this is going to be a quick training. I do have to drop. I have a casting to go to. Okay. Number 2, the second scenario is when you're living life when you have unhealed trauma, specifically trauma that causes you to avoid conflict or to, be so agreeable. It's good to be an agreeable person. I am an agreeable person, but trauma that causes you to people please and avoid conflict. So what happens is when you get into situations where your values are being infringed on and really being eroded, the trauma is going to take over and you're going to be unable to set those boundaries. Okay? If you have any unhealed trauma that causes you to avoid confrontation, I used to avoid confrontation. I still do. It's just the difference now is that my nervous system has been healed, so I find tactical ways to do that, but I know what that feels like. So the first thing, if that's the case, the first thing is go and heal. Go talk to a therapist. Go and heal. Heal yourself. Okay? Get the therapy that you need to release that trauma, and then get coaching. That I can help with. And then once you're done, it starts small. So your body and your nervous system needs small actions repeated every day to be able to do something. So if once you're doing the healing, you start small. So one thing that can be considered small when you're someone who is so afraid of confrontation and is so afraid of conflict and is so afraid of people's reactions. The one thing that you can do is find situations where the consequences are not huge. Something where the consequences are so minute that you have the courage to do it, and use those situations to start enforcing boundaries. Let me give you an example. Let's say you and your friend plan to have coffee over the weekend, and she's expecting you to come, and then you just call her up and say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to come. This came up and whatnot. Now, if it's your best friend, they're just going to say, okay, whatever, we'll fix it, right? You guys are scheduled. Use those kinds of situations to start to practice holding your own and setting your boundaries, okay? Small steps will get you to the bigger steps. Okay, number 3. When you are in an environment of people pleasers, when you are surrounded by people pleasers, you come from a family of people pleasers, your family, your siblings, your friends, all of them are people pleasers, it's going to be harder to set boundaries. Why? Because the human mind fears rejection, number 1. But specifically, when you are rejected by people that are close to you, it hurts deeper. It hurts on a different level. And so we tend to conform to the level that we're surrounded in or with. It's just human nature. And so if that's the case for you, then if you're in a work environment or a culture where people are people pleasers and they don't say no, it's even going to be way harder, all right? Because now you have the dynamics of you don't want to be fired, okay? So the first step, if that's the case, is be aware. Recognize the fact that, hey, I'm actually surrounded by people pleasers. How do you know? Nobody ever says no. But they complain a lot. If you're in an environment where people are complaining a lot, but they never speak up, that's people pleasing 101. And there are other reasons for that, but that's one of the symptoms. So own it that I come from a family, I'm working in a culture or an environment, I have friends that are people pleasers. Own that fact. Once you own it, the second thing now is to start small, to detach yourself from people's emotional reactions, because that's what we really fear. We don't want them to reject us. We don't want lashbacks. We don't want them to, whatever we imagine is going to happen. I used to imagine that people would just be yelling like, Amy, and that used to scare me a lot, even though in reality it was yelling. No. So those are the things that we fear. Start small to detach emotionally from people's reactions. How do you do this? Put yourself in situations deliberately where you do something where it's not significant, but you practice detaching yourself from how somebody reacted to something that you say. So this means that when people compliment you, become aware of how you feel when they say that. If you notice that compliment is taking over everything, that means you're emotionally connected to the way that they react to you. So you can use that information and start to program yourself and say, okay, I appreciate the compliment. I appreciate that. I'm going to keep moving on. And from there, you start to become aware of the reactions that take place in your body when people don't react the way that you want. So if you have been in situations where somebody reacted in a way that you didn't want, become aware of how you feel and where you're feeling that. And then focus your attention on that area in your body and just release it. You can use affirmations. This person's reaction has nothing to do with me. I am calm, I am stable, right? I am happy, I'm fully in control of my body and my emotions. And continue to do those affirmations when you find yourself in those specific situations. When you're able to do that, it's much more, sorry ladies, the timer just went up here. When you're able to do that, it's easier to enforce boundaries, because when you have that uncomfortable feeling or that discomfort, you can hold yourself down and allow the moment to come through. Okay, so I'm just about to end this live just to kind of give you guys quick context. We talked about 3 specific scenarios where you are much unlikely to enforce your boundaries. Number 1, when you're starting a job or a business or a new relationship, you are in a position where you're trying to prove yourself. It's harder to enforce boundaries. Number 2, when you're living with trauma, specific trauma that causes you to avoid conflicts and causes you to want to people please, okay? Number 3, the environment that you're operating in. If you're in an environment with people pleasers, it's going to be harder to enforce boundaries, okay? Other than that, ladies, okay, so this is March. The theme that I have this month is we're going to focus on emotional intelligence. All the things that I've said in the past 3 weeks, if you don't have emotional intelligence, forget about it. You will be unable to do it, okay? So I'm prepping some training for you guys for emotional intelligence, so next week we'll start with that. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, put it in the comments and I'll respond to it later. Okay. Have an amazing Sunday, ladies, and I will see you next week. Bye.